At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We're part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well, at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined often by my football guru, Ian, along with a bunch of other friends of the show on occasion. Let's get to it. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Mark from Rams Up here, and I have a returning guest, John Capotorto of New York. And hey, John, reintroduce you everybody to where you are, where you live, and how you became a Rams fan, real quickly.
I live in New York. This is my apartment here in Upper East Side of Manhattan. I've been a Ram fan since the early 70s. So I've been a Ram fan for a very long time. And, I know people are tired, at least in my family, hearing the story as to how I became a Ram fan. But the first game I saw on TV as a kid was the Rams losing to the Vikings in a playoff game. And this was the days of the fearsome foursome, Roman Gabriel, the old time Rams on a black and white TV, and their uniforms were just awesome. And the helmets especially. And from that point on, I became a Ram fan. And during the 70s, they just, even though they constantly broke my heart, it cemented my fandom. And over the years, it's only gotten stronger, and obviously the greatest show on turf, and this last version, and to make things, even better for me, my son has also become a pretty big Ram fan himself. So we're watching games together every week, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that happens a lot. The father-son connection with following their sons following their dad's team. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so John was on, I don't know when you were on, it's been several months, and he reached out to me, asked if he could come back on and talk more Rams football, and it's a perfect time of year to do it, right? There's a lot going on, and fortunately, we had some news break, so we have some definite things to talk about. Why don't we start there? This Stafford deal, we don't know the nature of the deal, but it's a good day for Rams fans to have him coming back, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you last week, in preparing for this call and this talk, I wasn't sure, because I didn't know where the direction of the team was going. And if, obviously we're going to go away from Stafford, that would be a totally different direction. And obviously at that point, depending on who replaced him, it wasn't going to be one of those moments where you just put all your chips in the table and go for it like we did in 21. But now with Stafford coming on board, at least for a year, but from what I'm hearing, it's more than a year that they agreed to. And you've got to, that's your window. I mean, really, that's your window. So this is it. I think they really have to go all in.
Yeah, and if you listen to Jordan Rodriguez's interview the other day, Ian and I talked about it, and it was very enlightening. And the Rams, I think you alluded to it, were kind of in a precarious spot, not in a really negative way, but just a decision-making process they had to be going through, considering, okay, we bring back Stafford, and then, if we don't bring him back, what does that mean? Do we find a bridge quarterback, but we may miss the window with all these great young players? So thankfully, they all figured it out. And I think it's probably going to be for 2 years, because the rumor I heard is the Giants, I believe, were offering them 2 years, like $90 million or something like that. So, yeah, but I think it's perfect for Stafford to come back for 2 years. They get all these guys on their rookie contracts, and go get some free agents.
And as complex as the McVay offense is, whoever you brought in, even if you brought in, the self-proclaimed genius Rodgers, it was going to take a while for him to understand the McVay offense. So it wasn't going to be smooth sailing, that's for sure, no matter who you brought in. I mean, the only other person that would not have missed a beat would have been Jimmy G, but, there he just doesn't have the ability. With all due respects, he's definitely a great backup quarterback, and in a lot of ways, he brought the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and he would beat us every week except for that one important week that he wasn't able to. So he's definitely serviceable, but he's not Matthew Stafford. And when Matthew Stafford is on and he's protected, I don't think there's anyone out there that could give the Rams a better chance of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and what concerns me about Aaron Rodgers is, I just could see the potential for instant regret as far as him entering into the Rams culture, the Rams locker room. And I don't know, it could work out, but there's a big difference between Stafford and Rodgers when it comes to relating to teammates, the leadership ability, and all those things, which are really, really important, especially with a young football team, right?
Well, Mark, I saw it here, in New York when Rodgers was obviously quarterbacking the Jets for these last 2 years. His body language, the way he would throw his hands up when one of his receivers, would either drop a ball or not be where he thought they were supposed to be. The body language was such that I can't see the team, going to war with him. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that, obviously the guy he's a Hall of Famer and he's got incredible ability, but at this stage of his career, he's more trouble than he is a solution.
Right. Well, and fortunately that's water under the bridge. Matthew Stafford's coming back, and we have our left tackle, and I did I did a little bit a few days ago. Number one on the list, it's pretty obvious. Number 1 and 2 on the list, I should say, Matthew Stafford and Alaric Jackson. So now we got those two issues solved. What's next for you on the Rams to-do list?
And I think you guys have mentioned it in a couple of your shows, the Rams are about, in my opinion, a couple of players on defense away from really having a top-notch elite defense, and that could actually shut the other team down. And we saw that during the last few games of the season, and where the other team didn't score over 20 points. So, I still cry over the whole Ernest Jones decision, because I really feel that with him back there, and not to take anything away from the other guys that filled in, they did an incredible job. But with Ernest Jones back there, and we saw it when he went to Seattle, with Ernest Jones back there, I'm not so sure that Saquon has those 2 games that he had against us. I just feel he would have filled some of those gaps that were back there. But at the same time, and I say this to my Giant friends here in New York, the Rams didn't win a Super Bowl this year thanks to the Giants. Giving away Saquon really killed the Rams indirectly.
Right.
So without Saquon, I don't think the Eagles beat. And even with Saquon, I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking that the Rams should have won that game with a little bit more of a little bit more luck. We listen, that 3rd and 2 will always stick in my mind, like I'm sure it does in everybody else's mind. Rams fans.
And I've beat this to death already, but the ball hit the ground 5 times in that game, and the Eagles took advantage of those 5 times the ball was on the ground, and the Rams didn't.
And you know what, Mark? And we still almost won. Right. If you really think about all of the things that were lined up against the Rams in that game, and I hear it from my friends here in New York that are either Giants or Jets or other teams fans, the first thing they tell me, the Rams should have won that game. I was like, yeah, I know. That's not helping me right now. That's okay. We didn't. And, we move on and let's make sure that, hopefully the next time we have that opportunity, we'll be able to win. And so to answer your question, we need, it's a couple of defensive players, a shutdown cornerback, in my opinion, to add to what we already have, and a linebacker, someone that's going to really take command back there. And of course, I think of when we had Jalen Ramsey as our shutdown cornerback. Obviously, he's not a linebacker, but Aaron Donald kind of was that guy that kind of made sure that the defense, the line, and especially the opponent's running back wasn't going to get too far past that line of scrimmage. But having that linebacker, and I know over the years the Rams haven't really invested in someone that's going to, Bobby Wagner was really the closest that we've had back there, and we only gave him a year. And even during that year, he led the team in tackles. It was a horrible year. He was here at the wrong time. But I think having somebody back there along with a shutdown cornerback on the defensive side, I think that will be what we need, because those kids up front, they were amazing. And 16 sacks in the 2 playoff games against pretty good offensive lines. That was amazing. And I only think they're going to get better. We're talking about a very, very young front line. So they're only going to get better. And with some veteran leadership, that would really help. So I think on the defensive side, finding a couple of free agents to give them that veteran leadership and those 2 players that I think they need to really get them to where they need to be.
Yeah, obviously with Roseboom potentially leaving, there's going to be a hole there. And I agree with you. I think we have a bunch of good cornerbacks. We don't have an elite cornerback. Witherspoon was probably the closest thing to that, and he's a free agent. So a lot of good players, Emmanuel Forbes, we don't know much about him yet. Darion Kendrick's coming back. Kobe Durant, he has limitations, but he steps up and plays some good football. Darius Williams, some Ram fans are, want the Rams to move on from him. But I don't know if that's a wise choice. But yeah, bringing in, and I feel like, you might want to draft a cornerback, but there's always a risk there. Find a free agent that you have NFL tape on him, bring him in, and establish him as your number one cornerback. If that's where you're going to spend your money, I think that's where I would like to see them spend it.
I agree. With the draft, I would rather they look at adding to the offense. I mean, that's where you have your veterans, right? You have the Staffords of the world, and
right.
Although Puka is young, but he already acts and plays like a veteran. So, I think on the offensive side, going out and giving Stafford additional weapons, and the one area that I think the Rams have kind of, they never had, at least with this version of the Rams, is a tight end. With all due respects to Higbee, he's been great when he's on the field. Obviously, he's had all of the Rams record, but it goes to show you how that particular position over the decades, the Rams have never had that tight end that really makes the difference that you could go to. And towards the end of the year, even when they were playing well and they were going, they were scoring and they were winning, the tight end was not really part of the game. And with Cooper Kupp not being at his best, as the year went by, it was either Puka or Puka.
Right.
And of course, obviously we depended on the run. That was great. I think run is key. But I also feel that having that additional weapon at the tight end position, and it just so happens that from what I understand, and better than me, there's an incredible crop of tight ends that are available on the draft. And one in particular that I've seen and seems like a player is that Mason Taylor from LSU. I don't think Warren is going to get to our number. What is it, 26?
Right.
But I do think that, Taylor might drop down and I think he would be a great addition. And he goes both ways. He's got great hands. He'll catch the ball, runs his routes very well, and he also blocks, which is the Rams' way, right? So I think a tight end and a wide receiver that is going to replace Cooper Kupp. Obviously, like everyone else, it breaks my heart that Cooper Kupp is not going to be on the Rams, but I also understand why the Rams are doing what they're doing, and it's unfortunate. I wish, in a perfect world, they would get together and come up with a restructuring of that contract, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And in order for the Rams to stay relevant and to be where they are, they need constant renewal. Every team needs constant renewal in every sport. If you kind of become stagnant, your record is going to slowly go down the drain. So it's unfortunate. He's always going to be dear to everyone's heart. That year will go down as one of the greatest in Rams history, in the NFL history. What he did, to get us a trophy was amazing. So we need a wide receiver now. In that case, obviously, I don't know if the lower rounds is going to be able to produce the wide receiver that I think will be able to replace Cooper Kupp. But if if there's someone available out there that they could sign at a reasonable price, that could give Stafford that additional weapon, so that people can't just focus on Puka.
Yeah, I think if you look at the draft and free agency, if you look at them both at the same time, this is what I'll say about tight ends and wide receivers. I think right now our wide receiver core, assuming Kupp is gone, is really depleted. We got 3 guys, right? And I think the answer for me is I'd like to see them bring back Demarcus Robinson, because he's that mid-range wide receiver, knows the offense, really good in the red zone. Bring him back, and then use a draft pick on a wide receiver and a tight end. And you're right, there are a lot of tight ends. And we were really thrilled when the Rams made that trade last year, giving up the 2nd round pick, but now it's time, so we could draft Braden Fisk, right? And I still fully support that trade, but now we pay the piper. We don't have a 2nd round pick, and that creates a dilemma. You have that number 26 pick overall, and then your next pick is like at 90, I think. So that's a big gap from 26 to 90, and a lot of tight ends are going to come off the board. Do you really, the tight end I really like, and people are going to hate me for this, but I'm just telling you how I feel. Now, I think Harold Fanning Jr. is a difference maker in this offense. He would be incredible. Is he worth the 26th pick overall? Probably not. Would that stop Sean McVay from drafting him? Absolutely not, but I don't know what they're going to do. But, I've seen some mock drafts with the Rams grabbing Matthew Golden, the Texas wide receiver, at 26, maybe coming back, getting a tight end later. But I think you'd have to think the Rams are going to try to maybe drop back into the 2nd round, which may mean they pass up on, a couple of receivers that I really like. But it kind of makes sense if they could drop back and add pick up a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick, something like that. But Les Snead will figure it out.
Yep.
But there are some tight ends, like you said, later on that might be there in the 3rd round. Will certainly be there in the 3rd round. I don't know if they're difference makers, but I'm sorry, man. I think if you watch Harold Fanning Jr., you could play him in the slot. You could play him as a tight end. And maybe I'm getting overly excited, as we tend to do this time of year.
But that's the type of tight end that I think will make a difference, right? And we've seen it occasionally over the years with Higbee, but I also think that McVay and I know, and again, I'm not the X's and O's guys that Ian and you are. But when I watch, I don't feel there's a commitment, from McVay, unless Higbee is on the field, to look for the tight end. Now, maybe the tight end is not getting open. Maybe he's not running his routes well. Maybe Stafford just doesn't feel comfortable throwing the ball to Parkinson, for example. But I really don't think, in my mind, from what I saw this year, that they really had a commitment to going to him, to getting him the ball. Okay, he dropped the ball. Puka drops the ball too every once in a while. But you know what? They go right back to him the next time. I don't think they did that with Parkinson and with some of the other tight ends. I just feel that the commitment is not there. And that ends up limiting Stafford again to always look for either Puka or Cooper Kupp when Coop was at his best, and the other defenses, it's much easier for them to defend.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's winter, and you can now get almost anything you need for the coldest months of the year delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a ski slope delivered, but you can get dish soap delivered. Sunshine, that's a no. But a bottle of wine, that's a yes. A snow angel, sorry, no. But angel hair pasta, Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol and select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024, ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, I don't know, but I have to think a lot of that's on Stafford. And it also creates this wear and tear situation on guys like Cup and Puka, and we've seen that too. I mean, these guys just getting hammered and, getting way more touches than you'd like to see from wide receivers that are also asked to block when they're not targeted, they're in there blocking. That's a tall order for those guys.
It's a full-time job, and we've seen it. Like you said, we've seen it. The wear and tear. Let's face it. Cooper Kupp almost fell off the cliff. He was, at his best, and of course injuries, independent of wear and tear. Having major injuries doesn't help either, and not being on the field. And then, I also think, like you said, it's also Stafford. It's not just McVay and his offensive design. I think it's also Stafford that's always looking for, I refer to them as his pet wide receivers, or his pet offensive weapons. And it, unfortunately, ends up being that one guy, and we lucked out in the Super Bowl because that one guy was Cooper Kupp, but in his defense, he was the only guy on the field at that point, and if we were going to win the Super Bowl, the ball had to go through Cooper Kupp, but we need to and I think in my mind, when I heard McVay say that we need to diversify our offense, that's what came to mind for me. And that is to have more than one option or have more than one weapon at any given time so that the other team, and that goes to show you how good Stafford is. The other team's defense knows exactly where the ball is going, and yet he almost had us in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. How do you feel about, what's your position on the running back position as it stands today for the Rams? And I won't color that with any suggestions. Just What do you think the Rams should do at that position, if anything?
You know what? I think we're okay. I mean, I like Kyron Williams. He has to work on holding on to the ball. We had, in New York, if you recall, Tiki Barber had that issue where he had fumbleitis for a while, and they worked all off season on having him hold the ball differently, higher up. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a lot of the techniques behind the actual game of football, but all I know is that after that special training that he got, he stopped fumbling. Kyron Williams, I think, is perfectly fine. We haven't seen enough of Blake Corum, but the little that we saw, he was pretty good. And for a while there, when they were 1-4 and the season looked like it was unraveling, it's like, well, let's put Corum in there. And I think the brain trust was proven right by sticking to Kyron, and the Rams turned the season around. And a lot of it had to do with Kyron Williams. I mean, he's a player. I mean, he doesn't have the natural ability that a Saquon Barkley has. Not many running backs do, but at the same time, he's a gamer. I mean, he'll grind out those 3-4 yards on every single run. So I think on the running back situation, I think we're fine. And Rivers, as your third option. Obviously, they may need to pad that room up a little bit with maybe another runner, through the draft, which the Rams, like you say, all the time always do. But I think we're okay at the running back position.
Yeah, I've seen comments on the YouTube channel and elsewhere, 2 schools of thought, 3 schools of thought, really. There's a minority that are done with Kyron Williams, which I think is just crazy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. And then there's another smaller group as well that would like to see the Rams draft a fullback, and I just don't see it. I don't see McVay using one of his 11 guys. He did that briefly with Ben Skowronek. That didn't really work. And, so maybe McVay will consider it again, bring in a true fullback. And then, a speed back, get something, bring in a running back in the draft probably that offers something a little bit different than Kyron and Blake. And I'm all in on that. I would like to see that. I still don't know that McVay, I think the problem McVay has is, committing to a speed back, 10 or 12 snaps a game, which means Kyron's not on the field and Blake Corum's not on the field. So, that's a bit of a dilemma too. You really have to be willing to really expand the playbook and get more guys off the bench in the game, get them snaps. And I haven't really seen that from Sean McVay yet, but I like the speed back idea. A running back that, threatens you vertically more, can go the distance, which I don't know that Kyron and Blake, either of them can really do that from what I've seen, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on Corum.
It's hard to say, with Blake Corum, but from what I'm hearing, he's a carbon copy of Kyron. Right. And if that's the case, again, you're going to get that. The floor is 3 or 4 yards, which is okay. I'll take it. Every 3 or 4 yards, every 3 plays, you got a first down. Now, the other thing that, I think would be a mistake is to immediately give up on Jonah Jackson. I think we got off to a bad start with him this year. He was changing positions. He got hurt during the OTAs. And then, by the time he got back, he was playing another position, or they put him back at center. They should just decide on where they're going to put him on that offensive line, leave him there, and give him one more solid year where, he doesn't have to learn the offense. He comes in, obviously now having to prove himself because, the this was such a disappointing year for him personally. I think this year we'll see the real Jonah Jackson if we give him another chance. I don't think we should move away from him. As to whether he's going to be center or he's going to be tackle, I don't know. I mean, Bo Limmer was wonderful last year. He was great, but he's got his limitations, and I think there's more of a ceiling with Jonah Jackson.
I think what's going on with Jonah Jackson is he sees maybe the writing on the wall. Probably maybe he shouldn't. That he's going to be a second stringer, and ask for that trade. And maybe it won't happen. And I hope, I'm with you. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't mind paying the guy. I'm still traumatized by that one season when our musical chairs along the offensive line, everybody getting hurt. And if we do indeed trade Jonah Jackson and Joseph Noteboom leaves in free agency, you look at that offensive line depth chart, and it starts getting a little scary. If someone goes down, we got Warren McClendon, KT Levinston. We don't know anything about him. Dylan McMahon. There's some bodies there, but no one that Justin Dedich, no one that I really feel that great about as a starter, if someone that goes down. So I would be willing to keep Jonah Jackson around if he's up to it, just to be a backup swing guard tackle. Center,
and let him, obviously we're entering the baseball season, but just like spring training, let him win the job. Let him go out there and show why we signed him in the first place. I mean, this guy was a premier offensive lineman for the Lions, and that's why we got him. We thought we were putting together, an incredible offensive line. And like I said, I think it was a combination maybe of him, taking a step back, signs a big contract. I don't have to go out and kill myself anymore. Whatever. I mean, I'm not going to doubt his commitment, but in the beginning, he was also put in a position where he had, like I said, had to play for most of the preseason, the OTAs in the preseason, he started off as a tackle, then he became a center, then he went back to being a tackle.
Yeah.
They have to settle on one thing and let him do his thing. He was a tackle in Detroit, and he was a pretty good one. Put him back in there and kind of work around with the rest of it. Avila, got better as last year as the year went by, and kind of slowly started to look like the rookie version. And then, Dotson was Dotson. I mean, so the offensive line, I think, as long as everybody knows their role, knows where they're starting from, you've got, like I said, Bo Limmer at center. You might want to upgrade there a little bit, not because he did well. I know there's a little bit of a difference between his pass blocking and his run blocking, but he was a rookie, and he's only going to get better. And but having somebody there as well, just in case someone gets hurt, I think it's time to move on from Noteboom. I think we I think we gave him all of the opportunities that he deserved over the years, and last year especially, he really didn't didn't fill in as well as he did in the previous years. When his number was called, he either would miss a block or it was a major penalty, and it was like, of course, you knew who was going to be on.
Yeah, Noteboom's been a bit of an enigma. There have been times over his career with the Rams where, he looked like the future right tackle, possibly even a left tackle. And then there's other times where you're just like, oh, geez, this is not going to work. Hey, last question before we get out of here. This backup quarterback situation, once again, we're faced with trying to figure that out. And I'd like to see them bring Jimmy G back, although, he was pretty pricey for a backup quarterback. How do you feel about that? I just feel like, you're hoping you don't need your backup quarterback, but this team, if it can make a true Super Bowl run, the last thing you want to see happen is, your quarterback go down, Matthew Stafford go down for 3 or 4 games, like happened a couple of years ago. And it's just, turns into a dreadful offense and we have no shot. And I think it's, before the Stafford signing, I thought the Rams might be looking at the quarterback position this year, maybe not. But what do you think the Rams should do as far as addressing right now the only 2 quarterbacks on the roster when the new league year starts anyways will be Stafford and Stetson Bennett?
Look, I like Jimmy G, and I like the Jimmy G signing as a backup. And if God forbid something happened to Stafford, obviously with every team out there, if something happens to their starting star quarterback, chances are they're not going to go too far. But with Jimmy G back there, you have a chance, at least in my mind. And he's got experience. He's taken a team to the Super Bowl, multiple playoff games. He has played in a similar offensive scheme when he played for the 49ers. I think as a backup, and from what I understand, a lot of the backup quarterbacks are just as expensive out there. So I personally would bring him back, especially knowing that there's not that many quarterback options down at number 26 or down in the second. We don't even have a second round pick, but third round and beyond. I would rather wait and for a better choice of quarterbacks for the future in the next couple of years. And I think the Stafford signing gives us that option where we could wait.
Yeah, I think the Rams will draft their quarterback next year. And what I like about Jimmy G, I know a lot of Ram fans aren't thrilled with him. A lot of 49er fans chuckle at the thought of Jimmy G leading the Rams into Santa Clara, but I'd feel pretty comfortable with that. And I think, again, it goes back to that culture thing. I think he's a good fit in the locker room. McVay loves him. I think the players love him, and they'll go to battle for him.
Yeah, I never understood, other than the fact that he played for the 49ers, I never understood that visceral dislike of the guy.
Yeah.
Some people have. Is he Matthew Stafford? Does he have that ability to get the ball where it needs to be at any given time? No, he's got to be within, he's a systems type quarterback. And we had that with Goff when he was here with us. But you know what? That wasn't that bad either.
Right.
Goff wasn't that bad. I like Jared Goff, and I'll always root for him unless they're playing the Rams. But the bottom line is, I think Jimmy G would be a great quarterback to have as insurance, just in case Matthew Stafford gets hurt.
Yeah, he's certainly likable. He's an easy guy to root for, and I hope they bring him back. Hopefully it's at a reasonable price. You'd think his price might be going down a little bit each year. I don't know if there's other. Yeah, right. He gets a year older because that was a hefty price tag last year to pay for a backup. But I was okay with it. And the Rams do have some cap space, but it could get eaten up pretty quickly. If they go after a cornerback and perhaps a linebacker like we're hoping they do.
I hope so. Like I said, that defense is so close to being elite.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's a fun defense too.
It really is. Those 2 playoff games were just absolutely amazing. And I think after the Viking game, I texted you or I emailed you the next morning saying that's going to go down as one of the best games in Ram history. And with everything that was going on with the fires there in LA and having to play in Arizona, going there and putting that beating on the Vikings. And the Vikings were a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And that was an all-out beating. And then, you go to Philadelphia, and we saw what they did. Both in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl against the mighty Chiefs, the Rams came so damn close. So we're not that far away,
as I said after the Super Bowl, you could make an argument, a very strong argument, that the Rams were the second best team in the National Football League the day after the Super Bowl.
You know what? It's not that far-fetched. And one of the things I have to say, all of my buddies here, Giant and Jeff fans, every time they talk to me about the Rams, the first thing they tell me is that your general manager and your manager and your coach are friggin' geniuses. And they really are almost overly, it's almost over the top as to how much they admire, especially Les Snead and how he, and McVay, but you got to give Snead the credit that he deserves. They go out and find these guys. That defense, going out and making that move, I personally, no regrets on the Fisk move. Even when they made the move, everyone was saying that they paid too much, second round pick, they're going to regret it. Just like we regretted, giving up all those picks, when we, won the Super Bowl, right? I had no regrets because I have all the faith in the world in Snead and McVay to find those diamonds in the rough that will keep us, like I said, relevant. Again, the Pukas of the world, the Puka picks, as you guys call them. I'm got my fingers crossed that they're going to find a couple more. Obviously the Verse pick was amazing, a no-brainer. The fact that he was there when we were picking, shame on all the other teams. But sometimes, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there, and that's what really filled in most of the early picks. So Verse ended up dropping, and we were able to snatch him.
Yeah, it's almost comical, how people can criticize, and we do it. I'm guilty of it. On this show, we're guilty of it, of criticizing McVay and sometimes Snead. And then you look at these other franchises, and they look. You
have no idea.
And they look at us and go, "Oh man, you guys are doing everything right." And that's what I keep on saying about the Rams. We are so lucky to be fans of this organization because they do everything right culturally, in the locker room, organizationally, in the community. They do everything right.
They really do. They're really an organization that other teams want to copy, and that's why McVay has the coaching tree that he has already at 39. It's amazing because people look at the Rams and say, "I want that."
Yeah.
And, let's go out and get somebody that's close to him and bring him over and have them replicate what he has done in LA.
And we see that with the Jags hiring Gladstone, the scouting guy, and Liam Cohen as their head coach. And if I'm a Jags fan, I'd be pretty excited. If they
obviously you got to be patient. I think it took the Bengals a couple of years before they turned the corner. It took the Lions a couple of years before they turned the corner when they brought in a lot of the Rams.
Brad Holmes.
Yes, Brad Holmes, and a lot of their, obviously along with the quarter, along with Jared Goff. But it's the culture, and I think although I'm not crazy about Campbell as a head coach, he's not my type of coach.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the Dick Vermeils of the world, but even McVay. I always listen to when they win, and I listen to the press conferences even when they lose, and he has, a way about him that makes him, even at his age, serious, and sometimes with Campbell, I can't take him seriously. But
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Lions do how Dan Campbell does without his two coordinators both leaving the.
And let me tell you, I was very impressed with their offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Oh, Ben Johnson. Yeah.
And him going to Chicago, I think Chicago is going to have an improvement. But you know what? Sometimes, Mark, and we learned that with Spags, right? When Spagnuolo was our coach, you could be an incredible coordinator, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great head coach.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Yeah. There's sometimes I don't understand. Well, I probably do, but I just disagree with it. Why these guys want a head coaching job? You're the best coordinator, whether it be offense or defense. You just nail it, and then you want to become a head coach, and it's a totally different assignment. It's completely different. And hey, they want to make more money. They want to be the head honcho. I get all that, but there's been plenty of coordinators that have been content to do just that, and built a legacy of doing. Remember guys like Ernie Zampese, Fritz Shermer.
Spags is a perfect example of that. I mean, like I said, we were all excited. A New Jersey kid, who's going to coach the Rams after coaching the Giants and winning a couple of Super Bowls with them. And then, with the Rams, his first year was decent, almost made the playoffs. And then after that, it was a disaster. And you could tell that he was way above his head. And then he went back to being a defensive coordinator. And the Chiefs are there every year. So
yeah.
So who knows if Williams is going to be as good of a coach as he was an offensive coordinator. But I was very impressed with the diversity in the play calling. The Lions, unfortunately, they had a bad day against the Commanders. That there's no reason why they should have lost the game. But it is what it is.
Yes, something was off with that team that day.
Yep.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. Hey, John, it's been fun. We'll have to do this once again.
Yes. Always a pleasure.
Trying to get more guests back on occasion, and I'll be rotating guests in on a more frequent basis. So we'll get you back on in a few weeks.
Yeah, maybe after the the free agents, so that we'll see what free agents we get, and then obviously the draft.
Right? Yeah.
So by then we'll have a good idea of what the team looks like.
Yeah, we'll do another roster review at that point. Yeah, thanks a lot for joining me out here.
Bye-bye, everybody.
That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.